Today we're talking about pirates. Yeah, those wild figures on the high seas that aren't just for boys' club. Turns out women like Shinshu or Anne Boney carved out their own legends too. Shinshu started out as a prostitute, a lady of the night, and somehow ended up leading to one of the most feared pirate fleets ever. She used her sharp mind and sometimes ruthless tactics to keep her crew in line. Anne Boney, meanwhile, was all grit. She fought alongside the man, earning a spot in history that still talk about her centuries later. Hey there, story lovers. Welcome back to the Storytelling Podcast, your cozy corner for captivating tales. I'm truly sorry I have been AWOL for the past month, but allergy season attacked hard and I lost my voice for 3 weeks. And there was no way I could record without coughing my lungs out, so bear with me. Besides that, my neighbor decided to redo his bathroom, so lucky him. But if you hear any noises in the background that it's not fun, it's my neighbor. I can blame him. I am your host Alejandra, and today we are talking about the very first pirate women in history. You thought that only men could be pirates? Think again, because this episode is going to be super interesting. But before we start, I would like to ask you for your support and click on the follow and the subscribe buttons if you're hearing this episode on YouTube or any other podcast platform. I have been reading your messages, and I really do appreciate all the messages that I have been getting for new content and also your reviews. Thank you very much for that. It means a lot to me. I would really appreciate that if you can click to subscribe or to follow, because this really would help me out. So let's get starting on our lady pirates. Women like Shingshu and Anne Bonny are some of the most influential pirates in history. Their path into piracy were anything but ordinary, shaped by their backgrounds and risky choices. For example, Shingshu was born in Shuyang in 1775, and she grew up in a poor fishing village in China. Her life was tough. Everybody's life was tough back then, and she wanted more freedom, actually. She ended up being captured by pirates, but instead of panicking, she learned to live their way. She adapted to them. But, for example, Anne Bonny came from the opposite end. She was born into wealth in Ireland around the 1700s, and she was rebellious, and she was always itching for adventure. After moving to the American colonies, she started hanging out with pirates, no surprise, but then her lifestyle drew her in fast. Shingshu biggest break came when she married Zhang Yi, a famous pirate. And when he died, she took over his fleet, hundreds of ships, all under her command. She ran a tight ship, literally, enforcing strict rules and demanding loyalty. The seas weren't ready for her. Anne Bonny's story is wild too. She disguised herself as a man just to join her lover, Calico Jack Rackman. She fought hard, proved herself in battle, and earned her crew respect. Both women smashed the rules ahead of their time. So Shikshu knew the power of working together. She brought rival pirate crews under her and built a force that she could take on anyone. She was fearless. She even cut deals with local authorities, always finding a way to keep her edge. That is some serial political skills back then. Anne Bonny thrived on alliances too. Her partnership with Calico Jack was legendary, and you know this name by now. And together they built a loyal crew. Their unity made them a threat on the seas. Anne's loyalty never wavered, and her crew respected her for that. Ching and Annie Bonny didn't just join the pirate game, they changed it. Their bold leadership and gutsy moves made them stand out in the world ruled by men. Let me remind you again, this is the 1700s. Women were basically just at home. They didn't have a vote. They couldn't do any step without asking for a man to help them out. But these two ladies, and more ladies that I'm going to share with you, they were fearless. So For example, in terms of leadership style, Xingshi led with an iron fist. She wrote up her own pirate code, and it exists, spelling out rules and consequences. Steal and betray her? You'll regret it. Discipline was everything on her ships. And Boney bought her own kind of intensity. She changed into battle and pushed her crew to fight harder. Both women demanded loyalty, and they got it. That's how they held power to these men. Regarding their pirate fleet, for example, Chingshi's fleet was called the Red Flag Fleet, and it was massive. Hundreds of ships, thousands of pirates. She organized them so well, they basically owned the South China Sea, which is enormous. She targeted trade routes, scooping out treasures wherever she could. Ruthless? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. Anne Boney and Calico Jack ran a smaller, faster ships. They used speed and cunning to dodge the British Navy, which had a very good fleet. Agility mattered more than numbers for them. It kept them alive and dangerous. That fear. So, what about their battles and tactics and how they are so well known? And why don't we speak more about them? So, Xingxi, for example, didn't shy away from a fight. She set traps, pulled on surprise attacks, and always seems one step ahead. Her reputation alone made rivals nervous. Facing her was a gamble most didn't want to take, and Boney's raids were all about guts. So, one is about tactics and fear, the other one was a bit crazy. Sure, she deployed enemy ships, sword in hand, leading from the front. Her courage became the stuff of legends. Both of them built their stories on so bold, sometimes reckless in action, and still they survived. These women didn't just play pirates, they became legends. Their wild adventures and clever moves still echo through history. Chikshe built her fortune by capturing merchant ships. Her crew went after fishing boats and cargo vessels, snatching up goods worth a fortune. She didn't leave much behind for anyone else. Anne Boney, out in the Caribbean, grabbed her own share of loot. She and Calico Jack raided merchant ships, filling their pockets and scaring the daylight out of everybody else. Now, of course, we are talking, and maybe it seems like a praise for these women, but they were actually badass in not the normal connotation that we give to badasses today. They were they were bad. Okay? Don't mistake this. I'm just sharing about the history. Don't kill the messenger. I'm just sharing about them just for, science and history purposes. But they were badasses in not that way. Shishu was a master at dodge and capture. She prepped her fleet, set in bushes, and always seems to have a trick up her sleeve. Her strict code kept her crew loyal, which made her even harder to beat. And Moni had her own brag of traits. So, when naval forces boarded her ship, she disguised herself and blended in with the crew. Her quick thinking and bold personality helped her slip away more than once. Chingshu's days were packed with battles, sometimes against rival pirates, sometimes against navies. She always came up on top, and her followers respected her, even, I can say, feared her a little. A lot. And Moni's life reads like an adventure novel. She fought in the wild naval battles and never backed down. Her story keeps inspiring new legends about women who refuse to play by the rules. But this episode is not just about these two women. Female pirates have always been the underdogs, but they leave a mark. This story is about full of guts, cleverness, and honestly, it's actually fun to read about, but I wouldn't like to be in that situation. But let's talk about some other pirates. Okay, let's start with Anne Boney because, she's from Ireland and I like her. Anne Boney was born in Ireland around 1700 and she had a wild streak from the start. After moving for the colonies, she fell for Calico Jack as we spoke, and he was already a pirate with his own reputation. She joined his crew, disguised herself as a man, and dove into the battle the battle headfirst. And then, when she was asked about her choices, she supposedly, allegedly, said, I'd rather be a pirate than a wife. These attitudes turned her into a legend. 1700s, so. The truth about her life gets mixed up with myth, of course, but still she inspires anyone who wants to break free from expectations. Let's just say that if she inspires someone, let it be from the positive side of she's being fearless and she's going to be her own person, okay? Not she gutting someone, okay? Then we have the fierce Mary Read. Mary Read grew up in England in the late 1600s, so this was before. She also dressed as a man because, you know, and she dressed as a man just to chase her pirate dreams. And you know what? She joined Calico Jack's crew, fighting alongside Anne Bonny. She was older. The two became close, and they proved that women can be friends and fought as many men at sea. During the capture, both Mary and Anne claimed to be pregnant to avoid execution. Let's just say that being a woman can have some things. And Mary's life ended in mystery. Nobody knows what happened to her after that. But she's still in there in the middle of the pirate lore. Xingshi, the pirate queen as we have been, is the most famous. So she was the most powerful female pirate ever. And when she married that pirate captain and everything changed to her because she took control after he died. And even though her story is almost unbelievable, it's actually true. There are several reports and several documents from in history that share about her. If we're going to talk about in a political, more cultural way about these women, we are talking about how the society, how freedom, and how the independence of women were. So they these women didn't just fight for the treasure. They fought for the treasure, of course, but they fought against the rules that society tried to force on them, tried to force on women back then. Real freedom was tough to find on land, but on sea, anything could happen, and they showed us. Pirate ships would become places where women could let, fight, and build their own lives on their own way, with their own rules. So, but normally we only see pirates as men, especially on TV, Hollywood, books. Why don't we talk about this? So, maybe it's not because they want to be shared or the society wants to share about this side, especially not in the 1700s or the late 1600s. They didn't talk about this. They didn't give the idea. They didn't talk about this because they didn't want to give the idea to women that they could be free, they can do anything, which we now do. So these societies try to box women in and keeping them at home, and these women just refuse to play along. And pirates, as pirates, they grab authority, they grab respect, they grab fearless, they grab fear, of course. Sometimes we cannot say that respect is the same as fear, because fear is not respect, it's just fear. So about the break, they broke the mold, they shattered it, and these actions forced people to rethink what women can do. That's why back then they never shared their stories. It's just, word of mouth first of all, and they didn't. The society was patriarchy, so they never shared this. Now, if you're hearing the episode here, which I do expect that you are, you now understand that these women weren't the only pirate women in a ship. And even though a pirate life wasn't easy, it was different. So on board, everyone had a job, everyone share mattered. Women can be captains, navigators, or gunners, jobs they never get in land. That kind of equality was rare, and it changed how they saw themselves. They were working alongside men, and women pirates built the confidence and challenge to a stereotype thrown at them. It was a danger, it was the adventure, it was freedom. Life at sea led them to write their own stories, far from the limits of society. But how to see if this is all storytelling, legends, reality, fiction? A little bit of 1% to 80%, it's not true. So their stories highlight bravery and a rebellious streak against the usual expectations. People have passed these stories down for generations, letting them shift and grow with each retelling. Their exploits keep showing up in fiction, breathing new life into old legends. Writers seem drawn to their courage and strength, often using their inspirations for new characters. This way, their spirits keep drifting through books and movies, nudging more folks than curious and maritime books. If you spot female pirates in movies, TV shows, and books, Anne Bonny, for instance, pops in several films in this fierce, adventurous character. Shinchi's story inspired novels that focus on her sharp mind and leadership, a bit of Sun Tzu to women, for example. Games and show tosses in strong female characters clearly influenced by these pirates. This kind of representation nudges audiences that appreciate women's role in history. It helps shift how young people see the past, making it feel a bit more real and honestly a lot more interesting. And regarding inspiring the next generation, the lives in women's pirates seem to light a fire in some of young people, especially girls. Their stories push the idea that they can be resilient, they can break through barriers, and even the odds look rough. You know, who don't want to dress as a pirate? I did. Teachers in classrooms all over the world use their stories to spark conversations about gender, about history, and learning about these pirates can get the students more interested in the sea and in the past. Maybe their adventures even help a few kids imagine bigger futures for themselves. Not being a pirate, but maybe being bold and doing something that they really, really like and just cross that barrier of shyness sometimes and introversy. Try to separate the historical details from the mythology, the myth about these women. It's hard because it's been a couple of hundreds of years. But the allure of female pirates still grabs us. These women defied expectation in a world that rarely welcomed them. Stories about their bold adventures keep popping up in books, movies, shows. Shinshu and Anboni stand out as icons of courage. They challenge how we usually picture women in history, especially from the 1600s and 1700s. Their history hooks anyone who craves a bit of adventure and rebellious. There are some books that I read while I was searching about that I'm going to leave on the description below. There, I really suggest if you like this story and just to read a little bit more because it's really surprising. Of course, we never know if it's fiction, if we add a couple of things, but it's such a good adventure and story that I really recommend it. And seriously, thank you for these female pirates in history because their independence, their gutsy leadership, and even though they went crazy sometimes and killed a couple of people, not a couple but the hundreds, um, but still, it's a bit of a different story, right? And just to end this episode, guys, thank you very much. And this was today's episode. I hope you liked it. It was definitely good research about topics. And what are your thoughts about these women? What do you think? Comment below and share your thoughts. It's always nice to hear from you guys. And I promise that I have other episodes ready for you here weekly at the Storytelling Podcast. And thank you for listening. And please remember that if you like to send your stories or special topics to be shared in the next episodes, please send it to the Storytelling Podcast 8080 at gmail.com. But before you go, if you haven't done it already, I would love for you to click the follow and subscribe button and see you on the next episode.